edition of Wasting No Time. I am thrilled to be with you here in the studio, and I am really excited to have this show because I am going to tell you a little secret. I have not shared this with many people, but can I trust you all out there? I know I don't look it, but I am getting ready to turn 50 years old. I know it. I was born in Port of Spain, Trinidad, and I think just God has been good to me that many people don't recognize or realize my age, but I'm here, and I'm alive, and I'm very thankful. And about a few months ago, I was approached by a friend of mine, Peter Mays, with Methodist Hospital, and he said, I'd love to share some information about a very important disease that is affecting many people in the United States. And I thought about it, and it happens to be one that affects people when they're approaching 50, but come to find out, it could be earlier than that. So when I thought about my birthday, I thought this is a perfect time to share this important health announcement. And what really provoked me was his telling of the story about one of the patients. And today I want to present to you my guest in the studio, which is Marissa Thompson Mitchell, who happened to be a patient at Methodist Hospital, and Dr. Eric Haas, who is the Chief Division of Colon Rectal Surgery for Houston Methodist Hospital. So thank you for joining me in the studio today.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, so when Peter shared with me some information, I was like, we have got to tell this story. And you know how sometimes you put things on the back burner and you're like, okay, I'll get to it. And this was like, I'm turning 50. What is the change, And you, Marissa, you're not 50. So, and you're like, and I'm not going to tell anybody my age,
Well, I don't mind. I'm
she
46.
She's 46 years old, y'all. She doesn't look it either, right? And so, Marissa, tell us how you got involved with Houston Methodist Hospital. What brought you there?
Well,
Or can I ask?
Sure. Several years ago, I was having some digestive issues, and I was diagnosed with GERD, or acid reflux, and my primary doctor had, given me medicine for it, but it didn't go away. So over time, it got a little worse, and so I went to a GI doctor for them to do a little more research. And he suggested that he asked me if I ever had a colonoscopy. And I guess when he was doing the interview or asking me about my family history, I told him that my mother did have colon cancer. They was able to remove it surgically. Mm-hmm. And so I was not, all of my siblings did get, screened except for me because I was only 45. And at the time, the age was 50, mm-hmm. as far as I knew, so I wasn't thinking about getting a colonoscopy. But my GI doctor suggested that I go ahead and do it, and this was December of last year. Mm-hmm. And so from the colonoscopy, they did find some polyps. He was able to remove most of them except for one. Right. And from there, he told me that it needed to be removed right away, and he's sent me to Dr. Haas. And so that's how we connected, and he performed the surgery.
Wow. So when this happened, did you even have any clue? I mean, even though your mother had it, but did you know about it?
No, I had no idea. Like I said, it started off with digestive issues, and that's what prompted me to go to the GI doctor. But had he not suggested it, I would have never known.
Wow. So, I mean, is that something that your mother just didn't tell you all, or you?
Well, I thought you meant about me. I didn't know about me, but yes, I knew that she had colon cancer, and the rest of my siblings did get screened, mm-hmm. but I didn't because of I was only 45.
Oh, wow. So she was only 45, so she didn't realize, that she can get screened because actually it wasn't something that could happen at that time. So because when you could turn 50, that was the age that people want say, oh, now you have to do the colonoscopies and all those other tests. And Dr. Haas is shaking his head in the studio and saying yes. So I mean, what was your reaction, Marisa? I mean, when you found that out, I mean, what was your initial feeling just as a human, you know?
Well, it did startle me initially, but I'm a woman of faith. My mother always taught us to pray about everything. So I took it to God and told my family or whatever, and they prayed, and I just listened to what the doctors told me, and I was also, I kind of delayed a little bit too, I'll go ahead and be honest, because I was planning a wedding. And so, but then when I did, have the surgery, and they told me that it was, precancerous or whatever, then, I was very thankful for that.
So you found out at an interesting time, and
Yes.
did you still get married?
I did.
Awesome. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So let me ask you this. So you were referred to Dr. Haas because of the GI, but had you not even gone in for that problem, you might not have recognized that.
I would not.
You would not. So Dr. Haas, maybe you can talk a little bit about. Well, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, you're the chief of the colon and rectal surgery. I mean, that's a pretty big outfit to manage there.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm at Houston Methodist Hospital, and yes, when my friends, they don't tell me their age either, because they know that I'm going to say, okay, it's time for that colonoscopy. But yes, I'm the chief of colorectal surgery. I did know Marisa's gastroenterologist who was in the community. But what's interesting is that those symptoms of reflux that you were talking about, that's not what the polyp, the large mass that she had, was not causing those symptoms. It was almost a blessing in disguise that she had upper stomach symptoms, went to a knowledgeable gastroenterologist and said, hey, you have family history. I know you're not 50. You just turned 45 or 46. But let's go ahead and screen you anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really, obviously, life-saving.
So that wasn't the norm at that time, was it?
Well, actually, recently, there have been newer guidelines, and I think we'll talk about that. But no, this is why this is, I really consider a miracle for several reasons. One of which is, if the guidelines were different and you had never gone to the gastroenterologist, what was just a precancerous growth, about the size of a golf ball, is what it was.
Wow.
At age 50, 4 years later, would have absolutely been an advanced cancer, potentially even life-threatening. And so it's really a miracle that you had some symptoms in here, you have some family history, the doctors put it all together, said, why don't you just get the colonoscopy, and then you had the surgery, and sure enough, it was on its way to becoming a devastating cancer.
Wow. So you are a living miracle.
Yes,
Wow.
ma'am.
So, I mean, she couldn't, there was no way to tell outside of the gastro, and that really was something else, right?
Right, and it is known as a silent killer, colon cancer, because until it's large in advance, most of us have no symptoms at all. Most patients are eating normal, able to maintain nutrition, exercising, feeling pretty good. In fact, I get so many patients, they're in shock when they're told by their gastro after undergoing colonoscopy that you have a growth or something in your body, because they're like, I feel wonderful, I can't believe this. I always tell them, if you're feeling wonderful, it's a save, because if you can get surgery done before the cancer is large and it spreads, it's 100% curable, which is really an amazing thing about colon cancer.
Wow, it's 100% curable if you catch it early enough and have surgery. Wow.
And in this case, and catching it early enough is before it even gets to that cancerous stage, and that's what brought us here today to discuss.
Wow. So when you were affected, and you went through the process. I mean, you must have had so much going on in your mind. I'm getting ready to get married. You know, my mother passed, you know, with this, and I mean, what was going through your mind? I mean, I just can only imagine. I just, you know, named a couple, but I mean.
Well, again, I just put it in God's hands, to be quite honest. You know, my mother, you know, she taught us the importance of prayer, and putting, you know, praying about everything. And I just, you know, I just moved on, and it's like, you know, if I put it in God's hand, He has to work it out, and I just, you know, deal with it as it comes.
How was your family to you? Were they supportive? What?
No, absolutely. We're a very strong knit close family. So they, you know, supported me. They were praying as well.
Awesome. So, I mean, you went to Methodist hospital. You've been with Dr. Haas. So how was Methodist to you? Maybe I shouldn't ask you that question, right?
No, I absolutely. I love Dr. Haas and his staff. The hospital is great. And I'm not just saying that because he's sitting here. You can, you know, ask my family. You know, I told them that, you know, I love Methodist and how they treated me. I mean, the treatment is heartfelt.
Oh,
yes,
awesome. So, Dr. Haas, when people come into your office and then you have to break the news to them, right?
It's shocking. It's shocking, and I appreciate what Marisa is saying about the Methodist family, because we are a family, and everyone from the front office receptionist to the OR scrub nurse is very invested in the care of the patient, and you can't hide that. It just shines. And so everyone rallies around the patient if they see what's going on. So when a patient comes in almost in shock, you know, we swarm them with love and care, and it really makes a very, very big difference, and it makes me very excited also to do what I do and be a part of what I am. And their support, family, friends, is extremely important when you're told that you have something growing in your body that you never knew was there.
Wow. So can you just kind of, you know, this was new to me because I've heard about colorectal cancer, but I just kind of glossed over it. So probably like a lot of people who are out there maybe listening, they may not even understand what it is, because we're, you know, like I said, if it's not something that's happening to your family, it may not be something that you even think about, but it has major effects.
Yes, it does, and I want to begin by saying it's extremely common. It's one of the leading cancer causes of death in the United States. It's right next to breast cancer, prostate cancer, but it affects both men and women. So it's actually a higher incidence of colon cancer. It's very common. You're right, if it hasn't affected you personally, you may never even know about it. But the colon is the very last part of our digestive system. It's about 5 feet long, so it's actually pretty long. You eat, food goes in your stomach, and then you might have heard of your small intestine. The colon's the last 5 or 6 feet, and that's where colon cancers occur. No symptoms. They start off as little polyps, we call them, just little bumps in the road, if you will. You can't feel them. You don't know they're there. They don't bleed. And over time, and it takes years, they slowly grow and then can transform into a life-threatening situation.
Wow. Wow. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more with Dr. Haas and Marisa after the break. Stay with us. We'll be right back on Afro Vibes Radio.
Your favorite radio station. This is Afro Vibes Radio Houston.
I'm in the studio with Marisa Thompson Mitchell, who was a patient at Methodist Hospital, and I'm also joined by Dr. Eric Haas, who is the chief division, the division of colon rectal surgery. He's the chief for that at Houston Methodist Hospital. So we've been talking about colorectal cancer and the miracle that happened for Marisa and the miracle that can happen in your life with screening. But let me just I kind of get excited about, the topic, and I want to go back and talk a little bit with Dr. Haas about identifying it. What do we do? How do we go through the process? And I'm asking all of these questions at once. So let me just ask you one question, Dr. Haas. Okay, so can we detect it?
Yes, colon cancer, although it's one of the most deadly cancers, is detectable and preventable. And that's part of the miracle that happened, and that's also what's wonderful about Marisa coming and sharing her story. Because I think if you would say, what's the one word, that message that we want to get out, the one word would be awareness. Awareness. And the awareness is about screening for colon cancer.
Yes.
That's the big one, because if you get screened, and the gold standard for screening, the thing that everyone talks about is the colonoscopy. And I say it like that, yes.
The colonoscopy.
The colonoscopy. And awareness of who should get it, when you should get it, that literally saves lives.
Yes. So I know that people stay away from doing the screening because it seems to be a little bit much to have to fast or drink so much water. What do you have to do? What's the prep for that?
Yeah, it's called the bowel prep, and it begins the day before the procedure. It really used to be horrendous. I'll be the first to admit it. It's gotten a lot better. Now let's face it, it's still not going to go great. It's still not maybe the best thing in the world. But it used to be literally 4 liters of fluid. That was awful. It's gone down to very, I would say, reasonable prep. You basically drink, and it's a colon cleanse. Basically, I call it a colon cleanse. It cleans your colon right out from start to finish. Look at it this way: you feel great afterwards. You're completely clean.
Yeah.
We go in. It's routine now to do this under some sedation and anesthesia. One other part that people were maybe feared was waking up in the middle, or feeling it, or having pain. I got to tell you, it's not painful. The modern ways we do it, it's probably the best sleep you had in years. You're sleeping, and when you wake up, it's done before you even know it started.
Wow. Okay, so don't fear the process, the prep process. And
Prep
then
would be okay.
the prep will be okay. And then you were saying before the break that Marisa, when you saw her afterwards, she looked great.
Yes, I mean, we she came to the office, and I said, we have to hop on this and get that out of your body. The colon, it was, at that point, we called it a mass. It was a growth. And we didn't know if it was cancer or precancerous. And I'm sure it's not easy to hear that we're going to go to surgery and remove part of your colon. That can't be, too thrilling to hear. So, but the one thing that I do think helps is there are absolutely innovative, modern, and very minimally invasive ways now to operate inside the belly. And this didn't exist 5 or 10 or 15 years ago. And these minimally invasive techniques that we do, I believe, does make the recovery and the whole experience much, much better.
Wow. So it's not as bad as it was, and the surgery is doable, and it's 100% preventable.
Yes, when caught before when caught in a polyp stage, before it converts into a cancer, it's 100% preventable. And even if it is a cancer, if it's an early cancer, and most of them are when you catch it like this, yes, pretty much no chemotherapy, no radiation. Once it's out when you catch it early.
Wow. So how does this affect people in the United States? I know you mentioned, I think I heard the statistic that it is the third leading cause of death in the United States. And correct me if I'm wrong. And how does it affect different populations, like the African American or Hispanic, or is there a mass population that's affected more than others?
Well, yes, and that is investigated yearly. And over the last 10 years, the incidence of colon cancer used to be the number 2 death. It's now number 3, which is a good thing. The incidence is slowly but steadily going down in all populations except African American population.
You got to say that again.
Yeah, I want to repeat that in the African American community, the incidence of death and survival is the lowest of all other groups in America.
And why do you think that is the case?
Well, it's been studied, and there's lots of studies, and the studies have all sorts of theories and ideas. It could be some genetic relation. Your mother had colon cancer, so certainly if you have a relative, you have a higher incidence. In all populations, certain foods maybe should be avoided. The biggest I would say would be processed foods. There's a lot of chemicals in processed foods, and that's been linked to colon cancer. But as far as the African American community, the one thing that all of these studies shows again and again and again is that the awareness, we needed to do a better job in the community on awareness. Just about this, what we're talking about today, colonoscopies and screening to detect before it becomes a cancer.
Yeah, when I thought about this, the topic, I was like, this is not that sexy, but it's but it's important, because you can't be sexy if you're dead. So you definitely want to share this information with the public, and that's why we're here today to share with our audience that's in 180 countries on Afro Vibes Radio. What type of emotional support do I think you might have touched on that initially, but what type of emotional support is needed for this from family members and staff as people are encountering the knowledge that they are affected by colon cancer?
Well, one thing right off the bat is just the doctor's visit, because when you're meeting the doctor and trying to communicate about, hey, this is what you have, this is what we're going to do, and I usually patients leave the office with a lot of hope, because I try to alleviate the fears that this is treatable, that we will get you through it. But being there with the visit it is very, very important, because sometimes when you leave the doctor's office, you don't even remember what was said.
Wow.
But what seems to happen with it seems to just happen. It just seems to, the support just gets there. People come to others in times of need. The love is there. You see it. It's part of the process that makes our job wonderful, because we get to witness it. A lot of prayer, a lot of community, and it's very important in these situations.
Yeah, this is like, thank you so much. This is really, really good information. Now, is there place, I guess everybody can go to Wikipedia, but is there a place that you recommend that folks out there can go to and do some more research? Everybody wants to be that, I think they go to the website and they're like, okay, I got this symptom, and they try to self-diagnose, but what do you recommend?
Well, there sometimes going, Google searches, and sometimes you get directed to some stories that may not tell the whole story. There's the American College of Gastroenterology, the ACG. That would be if you want the technical and the facts and the statistics. ACG has a website. I'll tell you that Houston Methodist, we have on our website, we have a lot of information about colon cancer screening. That's something that we try to populate with information. So that would be a great source. And really, your primary care physician, and I would say, get those yearly checkups with your primary care physician. Great source of information. Hey, am I a candidate to get a screening colonoscopy? That's really a place that I would go for a resource.
A lot of people avoid going to the doctor, and they don't even know how to approach their doctor. Some people are just scared. What would you recommend when someone goes in for just a general doctor's visit? Whether it's a specialist or their primary care, or even somebody that they're visiting in a clinic.
Yes, I would say that, hey, I was listening on the radio and I heard about colon cancer. Is that something I need to worry about? I would, just like what you're saying, be bold, take control of your health. I think going to the doctor when you're healthy is when you need to go, because that's when you can talk about screening, prevention, lifestyle, nutrition, all those things that should be discussed. It's hard. If my wife didn't push me to go to I wouldn't. It's hard to take time out of your day and go to the doctor visit and sort of take control a little bit of your health. But as we all get older, and we were talking about that earlier, I think it's extremely important, because life is what it's all about. Sitting here, being alive, being able to enjoy life and daily activities, and as what we all experiencing here, it takes some responsibility, and that's a big part of it.
Yeah. Now, we talked a little bit about the United States. I don't know if you happen to have any knowledge base about, how this disease affects other countries. Do you find the same propensity in African countries, or?
Yes, worldwide, colon cancer is in some areas more than others, but it's still one of the leading causes of GI or gastrointestinal issues around the country in the areas you discussed. But others include stomach cancer, pancreatic cancer. There's other types of cancers.
Right.
But the screening, as far as prevention, colon cancer is where we're pushing on awareness, because we know we can get those numbers lower.
Yeah. And for those of you who joined us a little late, you can now start getting screened for colon cancer as early as 45.
That's right.
Yeah.
As early
How
as
about-
45.
have you ever had any cases that were earlier than that?
Yes, and I'm glad you asked, because we, unfortunately, people do think colon cancer is a disease of older people. My grandmother and stuff like this. It's becoming a disease of younger.
Really?
And younger and younger. Again, the studies are showing, we don't exactly know why. Maybe it's because we watch TV too much, or not as active, playing sports as we used to be. But we're not quite sure why. But we do know it's happening. So what the guidelines are now saying is that at age 45, you should begin the screening process. Definitely have a visit with your doctor and see what screening is best for you. Because colonoscopy is just one, but there's other types of screenings. But if you're having symptoms, it's very important.
What are the symptoms?
Well, the symptoms for colon cancer, there's a few kind of red flags. Doesn't mean you have it, doesn't mean you need to worry about it, but you should definitely get it checked out. Abdominal pain, stomach pains that just are kind of not going away and after you eat. Weight loss for unexpected reasons. You're not really trying to lose weight, but you're noticing, like, hey, I'm eating as much and I'm losing weight a little bit, or my appetite's down. Anemia. If all of a sudden it's noticed that you have low blood counts and you're anemic, colon cancer is a leading cause of that. Another would be bleeding. Like if you have blood in your stool, and a lot of people think they have hemorrhoids. That's actually a very common mistake, where they've been treated for hemorrhoids for a year or two. They finally say, well, maybe we should get colonoscopy, and sure enough, it's been cancer. So abdominal pain, bleeding, maybe weight loss, change in your bowel habits. You're feeling more constipated. You try to take some laxatives and things, and you're still constipated over several weeks, definitely. So at any age, even if you're 25, 30, we would do a colonoscopy if there's some symptoms that are concerning.
Okay, that's awesome. So now, so get the screening. You mentioned people are sitting more and not exercising. Diet, maybe that's one of the reasons. Or processed food. And you
Yes.
think that's what the kids are eating? Everything is
Well,
processed?
Sure. I mean, even if it looks healthy, it's usually processed, and it's so many chemicals in processed foods. We eat a lot of red meat. That should be cut down to once or twice a week as a
Okay.
recommendation. Maybe not cut it out completely, but once or twice a week. Fruits and vegetables, they have something called flavonoids, oxidants. These words, doesn't matter on the words, but they're very healthy. They decrease inflammation in your gut, and inflammation is known to kind of promote cancer cells. So it's what we've always heard: eat fruits and vegetables, eat healthy foods, chicken, fish, turkey, very healthy foods, and maybe in moderation. Some of those foods high in fats and processed, you can eat them for sure, but moderation, just once in a while, once or twice a week.
Now, once you have the cancer and you've gotten it surgery, can it come back?
It can come back. It is rare to come back, but once you do have cancer, you have successful intervention, surgery, you're cured, such as in Maurice's case.
Yes.
What we do is we keep an eye on you, much
Okay.
closer than the general population. So, in fact, if you have a colonoscopy and it's normal, as you mentioned, you're good for 10 years, which
Okay.
is really good. You have 10 years to go.
10
unless-
years without having to do that.
10 years.
Pre.
That's right, without the colon cleanse.
Colon cleanse.
Unless, of course, you have symptoms like we talked about, stomach pains or changing your bowel habits. Now, in a case where you have had a close call, like a large polyp or a cancer, we're going to do screening much more frequently. And it's individualized, but we don't wait a full 10 years. It might be 3 years, it might be 5 years, sometimes yearly in certain patients that have a high family history. So that's very important.
Okay, so everyone, thank you so much for listening, because this is so important. Please share this information with your family. Get the screening. Don't wait till you're 50. Start at 45 and get the screening that you need, because your life is so important and we need you. I need you out there. I need someone to listen to me on Convergence Radio Show, on Afro Vibes Radio. I love you all, and we want you to live a long, healthy life. I want to thank Marisa for being transparent and sharing your story and going through the process and giving other people hope. You were also one of the people that said, come, let's do this story, along with Houston Methodist Hospital. Thank you so much, Dr. Haas, for being here, for being the warm physician. A lot of times people think of physicians as and doctors as being just cold and mad scientists almost, but you're a really nice guy, and I really appreciate having you here. I can tell your patients love you, and we are so thrilled. I am also a Greater Houston Partnership Ambassador, and we love Houston Methodist Hospital here. You have done so much in the Houston community, and so again, thank you guys for listening, and remember, my birthday is September 16th, so don't forget. And I love you, and we will look forward to talking with you soon. Remember that we will join you here on Mondays at 8:30 p.m. on Afro Vibes Radio. You can reach us by downloading the app from the App Store, Afro Vibes Radio, and catching us on, you can also catch us live at www.afrovibesradio.com. Have a great day. Have a great night.
Your favorite radio station. This is Afro Vibes Radio Houston.